Hello, and welcome to my studio vlog for the week ending today on October 18th on Friday. My name's Julia Kelly, and I am a fabric collage artist and a cross-stitch designer. And my company, or whatever you want to call it, is Moonflower Studio. My cross-stitch designs are underneath MF Studio Stitch on Etsy. And yeah, I have not been back here on YouTube in a long form for a while. You always kind of wonder where you should jump in. I've been busy. I've been doing a lot in different places and different things that I want to catch you up on. So this is also I've been on YouTube for a year, kind of, I think my first YouTube, which sometimes is called a floss tube in the cross stitching world, was the first day of fall 2023. And now we are in October 18th, so we're a couple weeks after that. But I've explained kind of why I found flosstube and how I got involved back in the world of cross stitch on several other videos. But the very, very short version is that during the pandemic, my husband and I were dealing with, and he was taking care of his dad, who was 95, 6, and broke a hip and got COVID and then had dementia. And we had a couple years where it was kind of all consuming. When we kind of could lift our head up again, my art studio I was doing fabric collage, which is like applique with a lot of embroidery embellishments on it. I'll stick some picture up here so you can see what I'm talking about. But it had just turned into a gigantic junk room. We had renovated another farmhouse we have on our homestead as a vacation rental, and I had been kind of all consumed with that. But that was all said and done, and then I broke my foot, married off a kid. This all was happening at the same time, and I found myself on the couch, kind of with time and a broken foot that meant I couldn't really move around much, and I had no artistic mojo, juice, anything. I had tried to stitch a little bit through all that. I hadn't created any new designs from my fabric collage for a very long time, and I just needed something to kind of get me back. And definitely a little miracle for me. I discovered flosstube, which is a hashtag you can just put in and find all kinds of people who like cross stitch. It was Teresa Kogut's video, and I just realized that there had been a new interest in cross stitch, which was my gateway drug to the needle arts. I did it when I had my driver's license and could drive myself up to Fort Collins. I lived in Loveland, in northern Colorado, to the bigger town to go shopping, and it had a cross stitch store. And yeah, that's how I kind of jumped into cross stitch. And then I went on to go to college, got my art degree. I was going to be an art therapist. Met a boy, getting my master's, totally changed. And then I came to Southwest Colorado, where he grew up, and we've raised our 2 girls here. And I got the privilege to be a stay-at-home mom, but I always wanted to kind of do something artistic and keep my artistic juices flowing. And I had the opportunity to teach art in a one-room schoolhouse, literally across the road from 2 Indian reservations in Southwest Colorado. So I've been a art teacher for about 15 years. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just focusing on my own work. But when my kids were growing up, I was an art teacher to Native American kiddos and rural ranch kids that going to Denver would be the biggest experience ever. That's about as far as their world went, which is pretty typical for the rural Southwest, Four Corners region. And I was teaching them about Van Gogh and the Renaissance and, painting and art. And yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting working with Native American kids, and their families. and then these rural ranch families that had been there for 3, 4 generations. Yeah, it was a very interesting time. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so then I also have done farmers markets, selling my work, my fabric collage. I have been involved in children's publishing. I've had some of my fabric collages in children's magazines. If you know about like Spider, Cricket, Ladybug magazines. I worked one time with National Public Radio, which is really cool. I've worked with church curriculum, group publishing, both in the writing and then in also illustrating. So yeah, I've done a lot of stuff with my art, kind of mostly usually centered around kids and children. Um, and uh, and then was doing the farmer market, selling my original work, and the pandemic just totally just I think artists doing markets and festivals might be one of the last things that kind of comes back in a healthy way after kind of the upheaval of those few years. And then, like I said, I discovered cross stitch, and I have always had people ask me about doing classes or making my designs available for them to stitch themselves. And I just couldn't figure out how to do it. I'm gonna sneeze. Uh, with the fabric collage, I mean, I I don't know. I just in my head I just couldn't figure out how to do it because my work is a combination of collage and embroidery on top of it. So it's like fabric applique and then embroidery on top. So I just, simplistically I just couldn't figure out a way to do it. And then boom, like I said, I was had a broken foot on a couch and Teresa Koga came up and all of a sudden I was like, but I could turn them into cross stitches. So I have a lot of sketchbooks with my work in it, and so I just sat down with some little ripped pieces of paper, started putting them in, and I think I stopped like in one sketchbook with like 25 designs that I had already created, already sold, had used for something that I could turn into cross stitch. I have an Etsy shop, MF Studio Stitch. MF Studio Stitch, yep, on Etsy. And I think I have like 8 designs up right now. I did grab my turkey that is up there. And kind of I was in the farmers markets. I was known for putting work into vintage cookie cutters. And so this turkey, whether you do the pillow or you do it in a cookie cutter, it is that pattern works. The cookie cutter, you have to do it on 18 count Aida, or the equivalent in linen, which 18 and 18 would be, is that 36? I think that's 36. Yeah, don't quote me on that. I stitch Aida. I don't stitch on linen. But the turkey pillow, you can do whatever, size you want to do it on. But yeah, but these are up on my I can't talk, Etsy store. I also have done, again, first as a fabric collage, what I call Fox in the Box series. I find a lot of these. This is a processed cheese box that I have found in antique stores. I kind of am known for designing work that you can put into vintage containers, like, Jello molds or cookie cutters, or the wooden cheese boxes, or vintage frames, or biscuit cutters. That's kind of what I'm known for. I just realized I didn't grab a biscuit cutter. Just one sec. This is probably too late for this year, but I have another pattern where there's a pillow and then the smaller cat and pumpkin fits into a biscuit cutter. So yeah, but I also do things that I size to fit in wooden cheese boxes. And there's both 2-pound, 5-pound sizes of these, plus cream cheese. Also, you can find wooden, and their configurations are a little bit different. So But this is my Fox in the Box series. This is the winter one. I have one for fall, winter, and spring. I actually started with the summer one, and for various reasons, did not get it finished in a timely manner to then go out for spring this last year. So it'll be going out late winter. After Christmas, I'll release it for, I'm sorry, it's not spring, summer. I have fall, winter, spring, and summer. So summer will be going out kind of early spring. But yeah, I did this one as a collage. It was the first one I did as a collage. And then thought to put it, I have other work that I've done in the boxes. You can see that the depth on my how-to videos, I explain how I make it work. But that is my Fox in a Box winter that that I did. And this one has, is it Algerian stars? Algerian, what are they called? Where the holes in the middle. That works great on Aida. So I don't know where this idea came out that you can't do specialty stitches on Aida, but you most certainly can. So that's in my Etsy store. And then I also have a series of primitive animals. This is a horse. I have a rabbit, a turkey, kind of as a primitive animal. But this is kind of like a Victorian children's toy block kind of style. And again, I size them where you can do them as at any size you want as a pillow or something. But if you do them on 18 count, they fit in the vintage cookie cutters. And I usually, this pattern has it as a palomino and as a paint. Not a palomino, oh my goodness, Appaloosa, or just a solid color horse. So I try and give, I'm an art teacher. I can't tell you what colors to use. I just can't do it. I can tell you what colors I used, but I can't tell you what colors to use. But yeah, so there's like variations you can do on them. So those are up on my Etsy store. And then for Christmas last year, I did dollar horses, and I don't have, I'll have to put a picture here of the traditional red dollar horse. I do not have it anymore because I donated it to a silent auction last Christmas. I'm thinking, oh, I'll stitch another one. Well, that hasn't happened. So I have a picture of it, but these are off of, again, a series I did in fabric collage. And they are all different breeds called dollar breeds. There's a dapple dollar breed, dapple dollar horse. And so the pattern has variations in it for the borders. This is a very complicated, it's not complicated, but it's more complicated than, I was actually pretty surprised how easy this was. Then just no border. I use a lot of 3/4 stitches, which aren't complicated, but you have to learn how to do them, but they're not complicated. But what you can do with them, there's a lot of variety of what you can do with them. So yeah, so this is a pattern that I have for Christmas of dollar horses with a lot of different choices of colors and what you do with it. So I have those. Then because I do a 3/4 stitch, which to tell you the truth, I kind of like when I got all excited when I found Teresa Kogut's video, and it was like, oh my gosh, people are cross stitching again. And then I was like, well, there's a lot of my patterns, my designs that I could turn really easily from fabric collage originals, my original line drawings that I would start with for all the fabric collage. I can just use those and make cross stitch designs. So I found a design software. I'm using WinStitch, which is the Windows based. What is the Apple one base called? WinStitch, and I don't remember. It's not Apple Stitch. Mac Stitch. but I just kind of remembered how to do cross stitch. I really didn't. I think I probably Googled a couple, just how-to videos. And then I kind of just started doing it. And I actually had done a lot before I realized that a lot of people don't use 3/4, what are called fractional stitches, much anymore, which I don't understand. I mean, a lot of designers will be like, oh, don't worry, there's not fractional stitches in this. And I'm like, I don't understand why. This is not the video. I've done other videos about fractional stitches. But I wasn't, the things, if you don't use fractional stitches as a designer, I think that is one reason why higher count fabric is popular, because you have an X when you make an X, and the fractional stitch, you're taking out this little side of the stitch. And it makes it not like it a line, not fuzzy. Like, I'm getting ahead of myself because I started designing in fractional stitches and then realized a lot of people don't use them. I thought I better provide some free patterns and some video how-tos to do fractional stitches. So in the fall last year, I made this little pumpkin, and you can see on his edge of his lines, he's a circle and he's curved, but you can see there isn't any little extra leg sticking out. It's not a full X. It's only 3 points of an X. So I did him, and I did a how-to video that, frankly, I have a Christmas how-to video for fractional stitches. And when I do that, I might take the how-to for this one down because I've been learning, and in a year, I think I can explain myself better and provide better video than I did with him. But he is a freebie up on my website. And then in the spring, I did the same thing with this heart. Free video. It's a free pattern up on my website, and I even did some specialty stitching on Aida and fractional stitches. So these are both freebies on my chart, on my website, moonflowerstudio.biz. And then this last summer, I'm not political at all. I don't even really stitch a lot of patriotic. Not that I don't think it's cool. I love Americana. I love the history of Americana as an artist, as a art historian, as a teacher. We talk about, things like that when I teach kids. So I'm not a really political person. I don't know. I pay attention. I don't want to say I'm not political. I pay attention. But, this election, for various reasons, a lot of women like me have gotten political because we have daughters. It's kind of come down to that. And I'll get into more of that later. I don't want to turn this into a political thing. If you don't agree with me, trust me, this is like one of a tiny blip of when I even talk about politics on this channel. This channel will not be political. But I did do another freebie after the conventions when Harris became the presidential candidate, and she's not the first presidential candidate that was female, but she was the first vice president, and it is kind of a big deal year. And so then I designed this freebie that again has not a lot, but some 3/4 stitches in it. Yes, she can. I'm very passionate about women's history. So just trust me when I say that this is more about women's history than it is about me trying to ram my politics down your throat. So please take it that way. But I kind of designed this, and then I thought to myself, this layout might be really good as a freebie with this idea of, yes, she can. Like, I have a daughter who in high school got her 3rd degree brown belt. So we were talking about I could do like karate pants with her, with like pink toenails. Yes, she can. Or they're into mountain biking. I have very outdoorsy tomboyish girls. So I could, do this where, it's something like mountain biking or running a marathon, and then the phrase, yes, she can. So expect more freebies maybe in this format of, things that are non-typical for girls to do, that we need to encourage our daughters to at least try. Try it. Yes, she can. So that's another freebie. I'm done being political, I promise, on this channel. So those are some of my design things that I have done this past year. I think I have like 8 patterns on my Etsy store, which is MF Studio Stitch. And I think I have 8 patterns on there. And then several of them are like the dollar horses, where you have multiple different variations. That kind of seems to be a thing I do. So I have 8 patterns on there. I'm looking over here on my design wall. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I have 6 designs in some stage of designing that will either be for winter. I have some for winter, I have some for spring, and I have one for summer. So for 2025, I already have some designs out there, which brings me to a need that I have. Like I said, when I did the dollar horses last year, when I just was starting to play around with this, I donated the traditional red dollar horse to an auction, thinking, oh, I'll stitch it again. Well, I don't have time to, I myself do not have time to stitch it again. I've gotten to the point where I need model stitchers. And if you know what model stitchers are, it is, and this is another thing that kind of surprised me when I got into more and more into kind of educating myself about design, is most designers don't stitch their own work. They design it. Well, I think there's a wide variety of how designers design. I think some of them just everywhere from taking an existing piece of artwork or a sampler, like a vintage antique sampler that already exists, and they're looking at those pieces of artwork or a sampler and then reimagining it into a design that then they release as a design. So there's that way of doing it. And then I think there is the ones I've listened to. I stitch all day long, so I literally listen to what's called flosstube all day long, usually, which is different people, designers and also stitchers. I think also some designers, a good example is the Real Housewives of Cross Stitch. Did I get that right? Priscilla and Chelsea. Oh, I hope I got that right. She started as a chalk artist. So she was doing blackboard chalk, pastel-y, chalk designs, just because she's a very artistic person. She's very talented. And another designer saw it and asked if they could collaborate, and they collaborated for a very long time. And then I think now those series that they collaborated with has stopped, and then she's gone on to kind of have that look of chalkboard. She uses a lot of black and dark gray. So, but she actually, I think, stitches. She designs while she stitches. That's what I'm trying to say. She designs while she's stitching. I design while I'm stitching. I think we're odd. I think there's a lot more designers who completely design with these softwares that are like graph paper, so you can get a pretty good sense of things, and then mostly work with model stitchers, where then they send that off. They pick their color, they pick their fabric, they kind of have their idea. I think they, again, collaborate back and forth with the model stitcher and say, you know, try this color first, or try, you know, I think there's some back and forth. But I definitely am one that the initial design, I make too many changes while I'm stitching, you know, in my colors, in my thread choices and everything. But once, like I said, I do a lot of variations. So like, you know, here's how many, I mean, I literally, and then if you include the dollar horse, I have 4 variations on this pattern. So I'm realizing that why is it that I always think I need to do a floss tube right before I go get my hair cut. And I'm growing my hair out. Look at how long it is now. It was like this. I think I've more than doubled. My hair grows really, really fast. So, so yeah, I'm growing my hair out, but this is about ready to drive me crazy. I actually had an appointment this week. We actually have to drive over to the bigger town over the mountain to get our hair cut. And I decided to change it to the following week. And now it's starting to drive me bonkers. But model stitchers. So I am at the point where I need a model stitcher. I need probably a few. And probably what I will use you for, if you're listening to this and you're interested, is once I, you know, so say like the turkey. I might design this and stitch it myself, but then I can have someone stitch this for me. So, and it'll save me a lot. So we can be working on both these at the same time instead of me stitching this and then me having to stitch a turkey again. I'll figure out all the problems with it here and it'll be pretty much figured out. I just don't need to do it twice or 4 times. Same thing like with this, you know, this kind of a thing. So yeah, so I need model stitchers, and it is a paid thing. It's, I think people do it a variety of ways is what my understanding is, both by, a certain, you know, a certain amount of pennies for every stitch. So if you take, you know, your size is what, 70 by 70 and you times it and then times however that is. I think people do it that way. I think some people do it, you know, a set amount. I don't know. I need to look into that. But what I want to do is, if you're interested, one, you need to be pretty confident in fractional stitches, because there are going to be a lot of fractional stitches. So if you're not, and you're like, well, I kind of like to do that, but I'm not, please go on my website. For anybody interested, whether, you know, I have a sheet that I'm putting here that is free to download on my website, moonflowerstudio.biz, on fractional stitches, how to do fractional stitches. I also have multiple videos on the playlist of this on how to do fractional stitches, and I plan on even doing more. So, you know, and if you can't find a pattern that has fractional stitches, I mean, feel free to, you know, they're like $6, $8, you know, get one of my patterns and try it. See if you like my patterns. I would hate for you to stitch for hire on things you don't enjoy. If you are doing model stitching, since I pay you, that means that you have to send back this to me. You know, so it's not something you can keep, but you can keep the pattern, you know, so, and any extra of the thread or whatever, you keep that. So if you want to stitch it again, you can stitch it again for yourself. Or you can also do, where did they go? My freebies. You know, I do have some freebies too, that if you want to just see if you like it. Yeah, but I need a model stitcher. If you're interested, what I need from you is, I need some photographs of samples of your work, with fractional stitches in them. And this is where the art teacher me wants to say, all your stuff is wonderful and great and fantastic. And I think it's fantastic that you're stitching and expanding your, you know, your repertoire with, you know, fractional stitches. Kudos to you. But I need to remember that this is a business thing where I am paying you to stitch work for me. So my standards are going to be high. I'd like some photographs of the back of your work, just to get a sense of, where you are in your ability. And it probably will only be the stitching. You'll send it back to me just stitched. I'll finish it. I'm not really looking at this time. Well, let me take that back. Maybe. Also, probably both. So if you are a pretty accomplished finisher and you want to, take a hand at finishing in something like this, I would also encourage you to look on my YouTube channel, look at the playlist, how I finish things. The finishing part of this, I am totally fine if someone's like, there's an easier way to do that. The finishing part, actually the whole thing. Anybody who's like, actually there's an easier way to do that, I am open. I am open to that. So yeah, I just am at a point where I don't have enough hours in the day and enough hands and enough finger ability to do everything I need to do to get out these patterns in a timely manner. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, and we can interact back and forth more. If you think maybe in the future you're interested, but you don't think your skill's there yet, go look at the resources that I have on my website. Okay, so I did write a list, which I have totally not even looked at. Okay, so let me look here. I'm looking at my list here a second. So I said hello. Kind of talked about myself, showed all my patterns, did all that. I'm working on winter, I have spring and summer stuff. I'm looking for a couple model stitchers. You can follow me too on, let's see, again, on my website, moonflowerstudio.biz. The links for everything should be there. But I'm Moonflower Muse on Instagram and on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm kind of switching some stuff over to MF Studio Stitch or Moonflower Studio Stitch too. But TikTok, I just started a TikTok for little medium-sized videos. So I'm around, but if you're interested, shoot me an email. Julia at MF Studio Stitch. Julia.mfstudio@gmail.com. But again, I'll put that down below. I talked about how I have free charts. Okay, got all that done. So then another thing I wanted to talk about, this is actually the last section I'm videoing. I wanted to stick this in here that I forgot to mention, is when I said that I'm not going to be political on this channel. I wanted to emphasize that this is my art channel. It's all about the artwork. Something that kind of got taught to me in art school, that it's about the work, it's not about me. And I really do want to keep that for here. But I also, because I'm interested in women's history and have been an art teacher for so long, I have other things that I think are really interesting, and women's history is very interesting to me, as I mentioned with that free pattern. So I was trying to figure out how to work it all out. And the other thing that I've been working on through the summer is I have a podcast. It is called Kelly Lewis Podcast. Kelly is my last name. Everyone calls me Kelly. They just kind of somehow in their head think my first name's Kelly. Lewis is another family name, so I just put those two together kind of with the joke. You can call me Kelly, even though it's my last name. And I have another website, Kelly Lewis Podcast, that I've had for quite a while. I do writing also, travel blogs and women history blogs and movie blogs, and the Telluride, which I said is just up the mountain from us, has a film festival that several years I go to and review movies on. So all that stuff is on the Kelly Lewis, was now become the Kelly Lewis Podcast.com. And the other thing that, and then with the podcast, what I'm doing is, I gotta get the title right, Kelly Lewis podcast, Pondering Women's Place in Art, Literature, and Culture. And I have 3 podcasts up. They're about a half an hour long. They are on if you go to that Kelly Lewis podcast, you can access all the podcasts. I actually write a whole blog and then I read it. I don't kind of talk off the top of my head. It's actually kind of read. And because I'm an artist, the blogs have a lot of artwork on them. I just did my most recent one is on let me know what the title is, Women, the Vote, and the Pie. And it talks about the history of women voting since before the suffragette movement, and we got the right to vote in 1920, how the Western states, first women were voting, and how that kind of happened. And then also the kind of the top issues that women, when we could vote, were very concerned about. And then leading into this election year where we might vote in our first female president. So again, just understand, I'm very moderate and I'm very middle. And the joke is when you're moderate, you can offend everybody or everyone can be mad at you. But I really hope I present this in a way where it is more about the history of women. And the podcast is about women, plural. The plurality of women, what we do when we get together and kind of work together on something, than it is about my individual political opinions or leanings. So Women, the Vote, and the Pie is up on my website. So that is, I'll have a link for that also on below this video. My first 2 podcasts are on a series that I'm doing called The History of Women's Stitching. I've done 2 episodes on that one, and I go all the way back to the beginning of time. We talk about literally men and women outside the cave in prehistoric times and kind of the division of labor and how women across the world kind of are the ones that have always spun thread or spun cloth, and all of the, Rapunzel and Sleeping Beauty and how that all plays in. And, but it's going to be a whole series through the aspects of women's stitching. And we've done 2 episodes on thread, which you wouldn't believe there's enough but there's more. I kind of had to stop, but we talk about the history of silk, the history of linen, the history of wool, the history of cotton, what areas of the world, things kind of got started first. So that is the other kind of thing I've been working on, and you can access the podcast off of my website. It is also on Spotify, iHeartRadio. So I had this design that again was a fabric collage first. I probably made it 3 times and sold them at farmers markets because they're really fun, they're cute, and people just really like them. 16, 18 are my sweet spots. If I'm doing a pillow, I like 16. If I'm doing a cookie cutter, I like 18. What about 14? But then I thought, but I want cross stitch that everybody can do, whether you're just beginning or if you can't see very well, which is a real issue for the large accounts. So then this next series, I was like, I think I want to do it on 14 count, just to show that there's a lot of cool stuff you can do on 14 count. And it's not a beginner size. It's not something you're like, oh, I can't do anything. So enough said. So this isn't done, but this is my start of this series. And this is a chickadee. And the sun is coming down really weird on 14 count. And the first one will be released. Okay, you see my head. It doesn't want to focus. The first one will be released for winter. So it's going to be a chickadee through the seasons, just like it was a fox through the seasons. This will be a chickadee through the seasons. But I was really surprised. I think stitching on 14 count is really cool for multiple reasons. The texture you get, You can see the crosses. You can see the X's. I mean, oh my gosh. You can, I did use hand-dyed threads, and the blending, it's just cool. The other thing that's cool is with the fractional stitches, like down here. If you can see it. See that straight line I got? That diagonal, that sharp diagonal line? That's what fractional stitches gives you. If I was doing this without the fractional stitches, this would not be a very straight line. This would be more of a zigzaggy or a little blurry because you'd have that little extra leg. So yeah, I'm doing more on 14 count. I kind of was doing it just to to kind of humor people who needed to use 14 count, and I'm like, man, nobody should put up their nose about 14 count. You get to see it. You see your stitches, and I can't wait to do specialty stitches on 14 count. I mean, Zweigart started in about 1916, I think, 1915, and its purpose was as an alternative to linen. And it has a lot of characteristics, Aida, that were desirable, especially if you stitch in hand, that linen didn't provide. And I heard a little German lady in a retreat one time say that when she was a little girl, Aida was the desirable fabric to stitch on. Linen was considered I guess you could stitch on linen, but if you have Aida, so it flips flat, it flips back and forth. Now we're back into an era where people are like, oh, linen is a desirable fabric, and if you have to, stitch on cotton Aida. But yeah, I mean, Aida is nothing to sneeze about. Yeah, so there's my chickadee. And the rest of it for winter, I'm starting winter, chickadee in winter, and then spring, summer, fall, will be released. I'm hoping for the latest would be the day after Thanksgiving. My hope is that I'll have a big, I'll release my patterns before Thanksgiving for winter, not Christmas, like winter. Yeah. So in that, the other thing that I have been doing, and I should say kind of the reason why I said in the beginning, this is my studio vlog for October 18th, is for a year I've tried the flosstube format. I watch flosstubes all day long. Let me rephrase that. I listen to flosstubes all day long because I stitch, and I just have my phone on a little stand next to me, and I'm listening to flosstubes all day long. And I think it's just so cool that we're in this era where wherever you are across the world, literally, people can share their stitch work with each other. So I've tried it for a year. I kind of backed off for the summer, and what I realized is as a teacher, I kind of like that. I like 9 months of doing something and then kind of taking a sabbatical or a break, and then coming back in for a new season. And I might be doing that with video, where I just take a couple month break, and usually in the summer, and then kind of get excited, new ideas, do a lot of work, so I have stuff to show, and then kind of do another season of it. Like I mentioned, we have a vacation rental on our homestead that is across the valley from Mesa Verde, which the sun is coming out, which is a good thing because I have guests here who came down to do the ruins of Mesa Verde, and we just got a major rainstorm. And I was just like, oh no, they're up there, because I know I can see they're not at the house, so they must be out exploring. But I have them, one more family, and then hunters. We're Colorado starting their hunting season, and then we shut up that house through the winter, through mud season of spring, and then open it up again for the late spring, spring break, and then through the tourist season. And I like that. I like giving it my all and then having kind of a period of time where I don't have to give it my all. So I think maybe this channel might be like that. I shouldn't declare it, but that this last summer, I really did enjoy that. But I have been doing a lot of how-to videos that I have either been putting up on TikTok. Did I cover everything else? Because those might be the last things. Oh, I did want to say that scissors, and this is one of my purchases. Can you see how much the light has changed? It's really weird what the light's been doing. I have these are paper scissors. They are from Stampin' Up. The style of them with a very short cutting part and then the big handle part, they're called Chinese scissors. It's nothing against not being nice to China. But you might have seen the beautiful metal ones that have like the metal and even a shorter. That's the Chinese scissors. And I use them a lot. I have like a traditional pair somewhere that's metal. But I like these so much, I wanted them in more than one place. This is my desk. That's my drafting table over there. You can see my scissor. Those are all my different kinds of scissors over there. And I know. And then I have my pin containers here. I could have a pair in here and then just stand up and come get it, but I didn't want to do that. So I got myself another pair of them that I'll keep over there. They're for paper. I use them more when I am cutting paper for patterns for my collaging. But yeah, but they are like the greatest, and they're called Chinese scissors. So I wanted to recommend those. I do need model stitchers. So if you're interested, shoot me an email and we can banter back and forth about that. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you're having a wonderful week and a great weekend. And I think I'm going to try this new format of more of a video vlog on my week instead of a true floss tube, because I just don't fit into that format of a floss tube. I love watching them. I've learned so much watching them. I love it when people, do recaps and retreats or just share their life and show me their work. But what I'm doing is, it's literally in my studio. So I might as well, I think I'm more studio vlog format. So we will talk to you later and have a great day.